Hey toy collectors, welcome to another super exciting outrageous toy review. Today we're talking about the new Super 7 GI Joe news. Super 7 recently teased Reaction and then later teased Ultimates. And so we knew this announcement was coming, but now we finally get to see some photos or renders of the figures they're going to release. We're going to start with Super 7's Reaction figures, then we'll hit the Ultimates towards the second half of this video. For the Joe team, they have cartoon appearance Snake Eyes, comic book appearance Quinn, and cartoon appearance Scarlet. So you've got Snake Eyes in his purplish blue outfit with no gloves. It's not a bad look. Kind of a great idea. Hasbro sort of did it for us years ago in a DVD pack where we got a bluish Snake Eyes. Of course, you know, these guys are Star Wars articulation, not O-ring articulation, which... it's kind of a shame, but, you know, this is what we know. This is what Reaction is. Quinn has his snow coat on with his hood up. He's got his machine gun. He's got his ammo belt. He's got his weasel skull necklace. The ammo belt and the gun are separate pieces, but it looks like the hood is always up and the weasel necklace is sculpted on. What I like about that is that the only Quinn in his snowsuit we've ever received before was from the comic packs, and he had his hood down. So I think that is a really cool and interesting character. Again, you know, he's not going to fit in perfectly with your 3 3/4 inch old school Joes, but at least it's a representation of that character. Then, of course, we've got Scarlet. This time she actually has her quiver, which you saw in some of the early GI Joe cartoons. She had a quiver to get bolts for her crossbow. I think that is kind of a cool feature, and I like the fact that she actually has a head sculpt with the ponytail. I wonder what the vintage O-ring figure would look like with that head on it. For your core Cobras, we have Cobra Commander in his cartoon look. We have Destro in his cartoon look. I do like Destro having the big fluffy collar as opposed to what his vintage figure looked like. His wrist rockets are removable, and I just really like the paintwork on him. And then we have Baroness in her blue uniform, which she wore in the first issue of the comic and some of the really early cartoon appearances. So I think that's kind of cool. Out of the Joes, Quinn is my must-have, even though I think he's the peg-warmer. Out of the Cobras, the Baroness is my must-buy, even though I think she's the peg-warmer. Then they've got 3 versions of the GI Joe green shirts from the Sunbow animation series. I kind of like this guy. I'm not dying to army build green shirts, personally, but I kind of want to get one just because it is an iconic visual from the old show. I used to actually think these green shirts were called grunts, because I knew there was a GI Joe figure called Grunt. I was a little confused when I got into G.I. Joe. I kind of jumped in feet first watching the cartoon and then got into the toys. And I was kind of midway into the whole toy line because I didn't jump on in 82 because I was a baby. And then they also have a variety of Cobra Troopers. You got multiple skin tones, and they have 2 different styles of support bands. You can't see it from these pictures, but there's H-back shapes to their load-bearing equipment on the back of the figure and Y-backed uniform. So one looks a little bit more like the toy, one looks a little bit more like the cartoon with the way the straps go. You can see some have pistols, some have rifles. All in all, they're pretty cool, but I don't quite think the helmet sculpt matches the cartoon visual perfectly. Somehow the helmet looks a little too small in the shots I've seen. So in the comments down below, let me know what you think of the Reaction figures. Are they a hard pass for you because they're not O-ring? Are they something that you want to collect? I think I'm going to cherry pick that line. We'll see. On to the Ultimates. Now the Ultimates are all based on their cartoon counterparts. There are some accessories sprinkled in that are based on the vintage figures, but for the most part they are very cartoon based. So first up we have Duke. He's got his green pants and his yellowish shirt. He's got the little red stripes on everything. I think he looks fantastic as far as the uniform goes. A friend of mine mentioned he does kind of look like he's wearing his skinny jeans, and it is true, but that's kind of the way he looked in the cartoon. He comes with 3 versions of his head, a regular head, a headset head for when he's flying the Sky Striker, and a Yo Joe yelling head. He does come with his helmet, which I don't think he ever wore in the cartoon, but it makes him more like his vintage figure. He's got his vintage binoculars, his vintage weapon, and his vintage backpack. I'm not sure why they're packing in vintage accessories with Duke, but not a lot of the other ones. He does come with the classic cartoon rifle, which is like the snow job rifle. He's got a bunch of sets of hands, as well as a couple of small accessories, little radios and things like that. I kind of wish he came with a hand that had his little homing device ring that he gave to the slave girl in the original miniseries. That seems like a easy accessory to include, but I guess it's a hand they'd have to tool up once and never get to use again, so maybe that's why they didn't do that one. Cobra Commander has two heads. One doesn't have the stripe like the toy, and one does like in the cartoon. Again, we're trying to do toy-based stuff, but they're cartoon-based. I think if you give him the toy head, he needs to have the toy gun, and he doesn't. So that kind of is a swing and a miss for me. I'd rather have the hood or the Cobra La faceplate missing head or something like that than two heads. But I get that it's probably, a cheap paint change. Like, they're just using that mold twice to get two heads. He has his cape, which is cool, from G.I. Joe the movie. He's got 3 different versions of pistols that he's used. He's got a rifle. I think he uses that rifle in one of the opening sequences. He's got a snake wrapped around a globe. He's got a snake staff. He's got binoculars. He's got a bunch of hands. A couple other doodads. Not a bad-looking figure. Snake Eyes, just like the reaction figure, Snake Eyes is based on his first appearance in that first miniseries. He's dressed in a bluish-purple color. He's got no gloves, but he's the commando version. He has different sets of hands. He has a pistol. He has the classic Joe rifle. He's got timber, and that's amazing. He's got a jump jetpack. He's got a radio, and the radioactive canister, which is an important part of that original story. And then we've got the Cobra Battle Android Trooper, the Bat. The Bat comes with a regular head and a damaged head, as well as just a neck peg for like a decapitated bat. There is a electronic spark accessory that can be plugged into the damaged head or the damaged neck. He comes with a damaged hand. He has his standard, like, original figure backpack and hands that can go in there. He has a pistol that can go in his holster. He's got a rifle and several other hands you could swap out that aren't the weapon hands, but like different accessory holding hands. I really like these Ultimate figures. I've always loved the Sunbow designs. Are they expensive? Absolutely. In my opinion, I would love to see them be a little cheaper and have less extra stuff, because I know personally these guys are going on my shelf in one pose, and I'm never going to use the extra stuff. Like, I'll look at it when I get them, but it's all going in a bin, and I'm never going to look at it again. So it's like a double-edged sword. Super 7 tries to justify the price by saying, look at all the stuff we pack in, and I go, cut the price and cut the stuff. But it is fun to have a lot of that stuff. So it's real tough. It's a tough call. Coming back up here and looking at these guys again, I do like that Duke has his vintage stuff as well as his regular stuff. I don't really need the yelling head or the headset head for him that much. I know he does say Yo Joe a lot in the show, but I could do without some of those heads. I could do without some of the hands. I could do without the little tiny radio. Cobra Commander, I would really like his vintage figure gun, or just drop that other head. I don't need the snake globe. I don't need the binoculars. I don't need the little technical doodads. Snake Eyes, I think he's pretty perfect. But if we're doing vintage accessories for the other guys, I would love for him to have his Uzi and his little pouch. I'd almost rather that stuff than the jetpack, because I really don't think I'm going to pose him with the jump jetpack on, even though he does use it in the cartoon. The Bat's kind of cool. The Bat, I kind of like the damaged head. In some ways, would love to just have a head with the silver faceplate, so it looked like the vintage toy. I don't really need the sparks. I don't really need the neck. The damaged arm is kind of cool, but unless it's big enough that it can grip onto Shipwreck, and they make a cartoon Shipwreck, and he needs to scream for a lifeline to come saw it off with a hacksaw, I can do without it. I know I'm a little critical here, but I'm trying to, look at it from both sides. That being said, I did pre-order the wave of Ultimates, plus an extra bat. So, that money's already spent. We'll see what I decide on the reaction stuff once it comes out. In the comments down below, let me know what you think of the Super 7 GI Joe figures. Thanks for watching this super exciting, outrageous tour review. Make sure to like, subscribe, and check out my other videos.